Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make these simple Kumihimo rings. And they look like this, the ones that I've done. So I've got two different versions really. It's the same technique and also the same braid structure. I've just set up the cord slightly differently. So we have the first one where I just used a feature colour running all the way down through the centre of the braid. And then here I've used the same braid but then just used the colours differently so they turn into more of like a hat pattern. So they look like that. And then what I've then done is finished off the Kumihimo braid with macrame and then turned it into a ring. So one complete ring there, and then can look a little something like this on. You could stack them as well if you want to. So they sit really nicely on the finger and it's a full complete ring. So it's a pretty simple one to do. It's just using a basic braid structure there and then finishing it off with macrame. So if you want to learn how to make these rings, then keep watching. So here are the materials that we're going to be needing. Now first of all we need a Kumihimo disc. In this case I'm using the square one, but it really doesn't matter, you can use either the square or the round one for this technique. And then we're going to need our cord as well. So these two here, one is an s-lon and one is a c-lon, but it is really the same cord and they're about a 0.9mm in the thickness of them. But you can really use whatever you want to, so say a 1mm satin cord would also work nicely. This is just what I'm using, and I'm using this black and this nice lavender colour. So let's get all the materials together and let's get started. So then we need some lengths of our cord, and what I have here is 8 lengths of about 50 centimeters each, and because of the braid that I'm doing for this one, I've got 4 of each colour. And then also what I've done is I've put all the ends together so they're nice and even. And then I measured about 20 centimeters in from that end. I've then tied just a regular overhand knot to keep the cords together. And now I know this is my starting point, and I'm going to be starting to braid from there with the longer ends. So I then attached my cords to my Kumihimo disc here, and I put that knot with the shorter ends down through the hole in the center of the disc. And then I distributed the rest of them like this. So what I've done to achieve the pattern that I want is I put 2 of my black ones in the 2 middle slots on the top, and then I put 2 of my lavender ones in the middle on the bottom here, and then on the sides we have 2 on each side, but the top one on each side is also lavender and the bottom one on each side is black as well. And then to start the braid here, what we're going to do is take the top right cord, first of all release it from the disc, bring it over towards the left, and then place it in the slot below the cords that are already on the disc on that left side. Then I'm going to take the left one of those top 2, bring it over towards the right, and again below those 2. Then we need to go to the bottom here, and I'm going to start with the right one, bring that over towards the left, now above all the cords on the side, and then take the left one over towards the right, and again above all the cords on the side. And then we need to move the middle ones, because obviously right now we have all the cords on the side, we need to get them back in the original position as well. So on the left side here, the 2 middle ones, the top one of them 2 is the lavender in my case. I'm going to release that top one out of the middle 2 and bring that down. And then I'm going to release the bottom one out of the middle 2 and bring that up. And then do the exact same thing on the other side. So the top one out of the middle 2, I bring that down. And I'm staying on the same side of the disc as I've taken them from. And then the bottom one of the middle 2, bring that up. Just like that. So now we're almost back in the original position, except we have these gaps on the side. So all we do is just release one cord at a time and move them one step closer to each other. So we're kind of closing up that gap. And then we have it just like this. So that's now the original position. So what we need to do now is repeat this over and over again, so we end up with a pattern that we want. So I now kept braiding here, and I have my little braid coming out of the back. It looks like that. Now what you then need to just do is figure out how long you need this to be. So what I recommend you do is you need to measure that. And you can do that by, for instance, using a ring mandrel here. And then obviously looking at the size that you want it to be. You could also just measure on your finger. Then what we need to do is I'm just taking a piece of scrap cord here and then putting it on the size. And then I'm not bringing it all the way around. I'm just measuring about halfway really, because the braid is going to be going about halfway around to obviously be the part that's going to be the main part of the ring that you can see. So I want to figure out how long that needs to be, and then you can take that length and measure that against your braid as you're making it. And then obviously depending what size you need the ring to be, this could be about 3 to 3.5 centimeters, depending whether you need a smaller or a larger ring. So now that we have the braid ready here, it's coming out from the disc, then I need to take it off the disc so we can then make the next pattern complete the full ring. But obviously, we don't want to just take it off, we want to make sure that the braid isn't going to come undone. So I'm just going to pull it down a little bit, loosen it up, and then what I'm going to do is take this hair grip and then open it up a little bit here, and then put that right on the end of the braid. Just temporarily, because then that holds it in place. So once I take this off the disc now, just going to remove it, all the cords, then it's not going to just come undone. So the braid here is going to be intact. Just like that. You can see it holds on nicely. Now this is then going to be the main part of the ring, you could say, so the focal part that's going to sit on top of the finger. So now we need to make the rest that's also then going to connect it. So I've then just swapped to my mini macrame board here that I'll be working on. It looks like this is perfect size for a ring on the short side there. So I just want to attach this to the macrame board so we can work with it comfortably, and I'm going to be working on one side at a time first of all. So I'm just going to attach this end with the knot there on one side just for now, and then this side here, what we just need to do is separate out the cords a little bit. So what we're going to do is separate two cords out while they're still attached there for now. So I'm going to take the two that are furthest towards the side naturally, and that's this one here, bring that out, and the same on the other side, just bring it through the hair grip, and the rest here I'm going to bring down and attach to the bottom side of my macrame board, because then what we need to start doing now is actually get rid of some cords as well, because there's quite a few cords here to be able to make the complete ring. So the first thing we want to do is use these two cords that are separated out and kind of secure this end in place. So I can just remove this hair grip because I have it on my board, so it's going to stay in place. And then what I'm going to do is use a square knot. So I'm just taking the left cord over all of these in the middle, so all of these coming straight down to basically the holding cords for now. Then I'm going to take the other one over that and underneath everything in the middle. So it's a basic regular square knot and up through the loop there. Then I'm going to tighten this right on the end and then complete the square knot by making the other half of it. So repeat by starting from the other side, just like that. And that's now secured in place, so we could take this off now without it coming undone. But what we then need to start doing, like I said, is getting rid of some of these cords because there's a bit too many. But as we're doing that, we also want to make sure that this whole thing is going to stay secure. So I'm just going to take and release these cords from the bottom of the disc, or the board rather. And then what I want to do is get a bit of glue here. So this is my GS Hypo Cement, and I'm using this because it has a really fine tip, so I can really get the glue in where I want it to, and also it dries clear. So what I'm then going to do is separate the cords out just a little bit, and then I want to start getting a bit of glue in there. So I'm first going in between the cords, just because that's going to make sure that whenever I'm cutting anything off, they all stay nicely and securely together. And then I can just put a little bit around on the top and the bottom as well. And because it dries clear, we don't have to worry about it showing really either. And obviously this is going to kind of be inside of the knot, so it shouldn't show too much anyway. Because what I'm going to do is add this glue here, and then I need to reattach it and then actually make my next knot. So I'm then reattaching them here, all the cords, into that same slot on the bottom. This is the handy bit about the macrame board as well. Makes it nice and easy to work with. You can just keep attaching and reattaching the cords. So as this glue is still wet, I'm then going to start my next square knot using the same working cords. And then tighten that, and that then gets tightened on top of that glue. So it's really going to adhere nicely and make it nice and secure. But now I already want to start getting rid of some of these cords. Now it's up to you which ones you want to get rid of. Personally, I want my the rest of my ring band that goes around to be the black cord. So I'm just going to be getting rid of these lavender ones. So first of all, I'm going to take two of them, just whichever ones are kind of close to each other. Take these ones first, and then I'm going to take my scissors and cut these off very close to that last part of the knot that we did. where they're coming out from. Cut them off completely. And then there's a tiny little end of them sticking out. And then what I'm going to do is finish off this knot, so make the other half of it. Square knot there, and then just make sure that when I tighten this, it lays on top of those tiny little ends, and pull it nice and tight. So that's 2 cords gotten rid of, but I still have some left. I want to end up with only having 1 cord left here out of the holding cords. So basically now what I'm going to do is repeat the exact same thing again. So that means I'm going to get my glue, and I'm just kind of working my way through like this. Add a bit of glue. Kind of like to do it in between, like I said. And then just around where the cords are coming out. And it doesn't have to be too much glue though, because it's just going to get too visible and spill out all over the place. But just a little bit all around the loose cords. And then we can reattach them again. So we can start the next knot here. So I'm going to then start that with the same working cords. And then tighten that first half. And then again, because I'm in the middle of the knot, I'm then going to just get rid of some other cords. So again, I'm going to take those lavender ones I've still got left, plus they're on the other side of the ones I cut off last time. So make sure to cut them close to where they're coming out from. And put them away. Reattach it. So we now have 2 holding cords left. Finish off this knot with the other half of it. Tighten that, making sure you catch those little ends that are just left after we cut them off. So there we go. And now I only have these 2 left, and like I said, we need to have 1 left, so I only need to get rid of 1 more cord. And I'm just going to do that the exact same way. Add a bit of glue, just to make sure it's all nice and secure. And again, like I said already, you don't need to add too much, it's literally just a little bit. And then we start the next knot again. So basically, what we've done every time here, we make a knot, we also get rid of some cords. So we end up with just having that 1 cord at the end left. Tighten the first half. Now cut off one of them. So we now just have that 1 cord left after this. Reattach it. Make the other half of the knot. And again, just making sure we catch that little end, so it doesn't end up being pushed out. And there we go. So I'm now down to having just that 1 holding cord. And basically, what you want to do is I'm going to then release it from my board here. You want to do the exact same thing on the other side. So obviously undo that knot, but otherwise repeat the other side. So we end up with this on both ends. And then all that's left to do really is connect it. So now I have both sides done here. You can see they're both ready, so I have 1 holding cord and 2 working cords on each end. So now to the connection point, what I'm going to do is just flip it around, because I need to shape it into the ring. So what I'm going to do is bring both ends together here, and then I'm making sure that I'm taking the holding cords. You can just leave the working cords out to the side. Just try and kind of don't get tangled up in them. And we need to bring these, basically cross them over next to each other, going against each other as well. And I'm just going to bring them underneath the working cords. So I'm basically now holding these 2 holding cords next to each other, so they lie like that. Now this beginning bit can be a little bit fiddly because it's loose, but it's just for the first knot until we then have that knot in place that's going to hold it together. So what I'm then going to do is, right now I'm just facing this way, so I'm just going to use the working cords from this side. I'm going to make a square knot around both of these holding cords now, as if they were 1. So take the left side over. I'm just holding it with my fingers here. Like I said, keep hold of it the best you can. And then this goes over that, and then goes basically through the ring band, or the whole ring, to go underneath, and then up through the loop on the other side. Make sure that that holding cord is just coming straight out away. And then, as I'm holding this, we can start to tighten the piece, or tighten the knot. Then obviously, when we tighten this, it's going to get tightened up underneath the last knot that we made with these working cords. Just like that. And then tighten that fully. And then now it's already much easier because we've done the first half of this knot and the holding cords are now staying more in place. You don't have to hold them the same way. But then make the other half of the square knot. Again around both holding cords. We're now doing a knot around both holding cords as if they were one. Just like that. So that's now fastened on that side. And what we're going to do is make a few more knots, but I'm just going to show you on the other side, because how many knots you need to make really depends on the size that you need this to be as well. So I'm just going to go to the other side, because obviously one of the holding cords is still loose, so that also just needs to be fastened down. Going to let that come next to the other one, and then just do a square knot here on this end of it with these working cords in the exact same way. And then tighten that right underneath the previous knot on this side. And do the other half. And then tighten that. So now I have one knot on each side there. That's capturing these two holding cords in place. So basically what you need to do now is figure out obviously the size. So you can do that with the ring mandrel or your finger. Because what you then do is you make the amount of knots that you need, but then you use these holding cords. You can then pull through. So basically pull these closer to each other, tightening up the ring, and then therefore also adjusting the size. So obviously when you know what size you have that you need it to be, you can pull them tight, make the knots, and then pull the knots tight, those holding cords together, so these two knots would end up meeting up with each other, and there's no more space to make any knots. But obviously that all depends on what size that you need your ring to be. So now that I have the size that I need here, you can see I brought both ends together, so it just seems like one complete piece now where those knots meet up. So all this I have to do is get rid of the excess cords, because obviously they're going out all over the place. And because I'm using a synthetic cord here, what I'm going to do is cut them down. So I'm just going to show you how I do that. Just take a few at a time. I cut them down so I have about 1 or 2 millimeters left. Same with this one. And then I'm going to take my lighter here. And obviously be careful because it is a naked flame that we're working with, so it does get hot. To then just singe down those little ends. So we get rid of them, but also it then seals the knots in place. And then just kind of push it in. So you end up having a nice finish, but it's still nice and secure as well. And then just do that with all of the cords, and then once you've done that, you'll have your complete ring. And this is then what the ring looks like completely finished. So you have that feature colour running down through the centre of the braid, and then framed on either side with the black cord, and then obviously the black going all the way around, and then finishing it off with the macrame. So you have your complete ring. So you can either make a braid like this with that one feature colour in the middle, or you can use this hat pattern instead. It's the same braid structure, you just set up the cord slightly differently with your colours. So that's how you make these rings. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.